You do not ever have to feel bad about doing what's best for your business. And most of the time, whenever you do what's best for your business, you're also doing what's best for your client. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I go about giving clients ultimatums whenever something is just not happening that needs to be happening with their yard. There's a way to tactfully do it. I'm going to share with you in this video how to go about it. The most likely scenario where I am giving a client an ultimatum is when they should be a weekly mowing client and they're every 2 weeks. Now in my market, we let people decide if they want weekly mowing or every two weeks mowing, frankly, because every yard does not need weekly mowing. Sometimes you get these warm season turf grasses that aren't really irrigated. They frankly just do not need weekly service. So we let the client kind of have a little bit of leeway as to what they figure is best. Now, whenever we take on the yard, if they are irrigating their yard and their yard is like a Ruby Tuesday salad bar and it's just like full of weeds, like it looks absolutely terrible, and we're coming there every 2 weeks and it's like shin to knee high, you can't be every 2 weeks. Like you should be a weekly client, especially if you're like that person who like dumps fertilizer on your lawn and it's always irrigated. Like you cannot be an every 2 week client. How do I go about telling them that they need to be an every week client? Because in my mind, it's at the point where I'd rather not have you as a client than to continue to do your yard in this condition. Like that's the mindset that I have, and I'm sure you probably have had that mindset before. So how do you go about like having that conversation? So a lot of you guys know that I used to be in law enforcement, and in law enforcement, there was this philosophy whenever you wanted to get somebody to do something. And it was a way to tactfully get them to do what you wanted to, but ultimately they were going to do what you wanted them to either way. And it's called this. It's called ask, tell, make. All right, ask, tell, make. Very, very basic. So in law enforcement, that was like, you see Joe Schmuck over here urinating in public. You walk up to Mr. Joe Schmuck and say, hey man, do you think it's a good idea to be like urinating in public? Oh my God, officer, I'm so sorry. I did not realize I was doing that. I'm so inebriated. I'm an idiot. Well, let's put your dingling up and let's not ever do that again. Otherwise, I'll be taking you to jail. Okay, so that would be the ask. The tell is you ask them, and then Mr. Joe Schmuck says, well, I really got to go and I just can't hold it. So he continues urinating. Then at that point, you tell Mr. Joe Schmuck, hey, you have to put your dingling up, okay? Like, you have to do it now. All right, so you tell them, like, this is like what has to be done. So then Mr. Joe Schmuck tells you, nope, I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to continue peeing all over this pole in public in front of the kids' dance studio or whatever the scenario is. So at that point, you make Mr. Joe Schmuck by taking out your Centurion control stick and putting it into his collarbone and pressing him down into the earth with that contraption. So ask, tell, make is the philosophy, and it's very, very similar whenever you are running a business. So the way that I go about ask, make, and tell with my business is this. I will call up Mr. Joe and say, hey, Mr. Joe, I have noticed that your yard is growing exceptionally fast. Looks like it's being irrigated, or we've had a lot of rain this year. Have you been putting some fertilizer on it? We want to make sure we're doing a good job for you. What are your thoughts about going weekly during the summer instead of just staying every 2 weeks? And then you just listen. And then usually they're like, wow, I hadn't even really thought about it. People are just so busy with their lives, man. A lot of times that's all it takes. And they're like, yeah, let's just go weekly during the summer. And guess what? All you've done is simply ask their thoughts on the situation, so it's actually their idea, and it doesn't feel like their hand is being forced. So just ask them, what are their thoughts about it at first? Then if you get a little bit of pushback and they say, well, you know, it's not really in the budget, then at that point you can say, well, look, your yard, it's being irrigated and it's being fertilized, and it really needs to go weekly. That's something that we actually, we need to move forward with that. And what you want to do in that situation is actually educate them a little bit as to the benefits of why they need to be weekly. Hey, your yard is not looking good whenever we're done with it. It frankly is not looking great. We want to keep our quality up. It's actually terrible for the grass for us to be cutting off that much of the grass every time. There's clippings everywhere. And then most of the time, that is enough once you tell them, like, hey, this actually needs to be done, because you're educating them. And then if they're still resistant to it, then you have to make that decision as an owner and basically lay down the ultimatum. Mr. Joe, like, your lawn is growing so fast, like, it has to be weekly, or, you know, we either need to raise the price for an every 2-week service substantially to cover our extra time, or you need to find a different lawn service who is willing to not mow weekly during the summer. And again, in your mind and in my mind, I have already committed, like, it is better for us to lose this lawn than it is to continue doing this lawn every 2 weeks for the price that we're doing it. So you have this attitude of, this is happening regardless. So you ask them to do it, and if they don't want to do it whenever you ask them, you tell them, like, hey, this is why it really needs to be done. They're still bucking it. Then at that point, you make them do it with an ultimatum, or say, hey, we're just going to have to part ways. And if you have that mindset, I promise, like most of the time, if you start off with, what are your thoughts about switching it? And guys, it could be anything. Like, if they're leaving kids' toys on the lawn, if they're leaving like dog poop all over, hey, Mr. Jones, what are your thoughts about picking up the dog poop the day before we come, or the day of? Like, we're typically there on Tuesdays. You think you could help us out with that? Yeah, most of the time, dude, they're going to be good with it. Then if you got to tell them, you got to tell them. And then if you got to make them, you got to make them. And then you tell them, say, hey, you know, we're going to have to charge you an additional $30 to pick up all the dog poop in your yard every single service, and then washing off, like, all the extra time it takes us to wash off all the fecal matter of your dog's feces from our mower. Like, frankly, Mr. Jones, I don't like smelling your dog's crap all day. And we really, really need your help with this. So again, I recommend the ask, tell, make approach whenever you're trying to get things done for your business. And remember this, you never have to feel bad about doing what's best for your business. You don't. Like, at the end of the day, we're in this to make money, and we're in it to do a good job for our clients. And if you're showing up and you know that something needs to be changed on the property, hey, you don't have to feel bad about making that ask for the client. You don't have to feel bad about telling them. You don't have to feel bad about educating them. And ultimately, you don't have to feel bad about making them through a price adjustment or just strictly dropping them. Always do what's best for your business, because most of the time, it's what's best for your client as well.